The first thing I remember is being under something. It was a table. I saw a table leg. I saw the legs of people and a portion of the tablecloth hanging down. It was dark under there. I liked being under there. It must have been in Germany. I must have been between 1 and 2 years old. It was 1922. I felt good under the table. Nobody seemed to know I was there. There was sunlight upon the rug and on the legs of the people. I liked the sunlight. The legs of the people were not interesting, not like the tablecloth which hung down, not like the table leg, not like the sunlight. Then there is nothing, then a Christmas tree, candles, bird ornaments, birds with small berry branches in their beaks, a star, 2 large people fighting, screaming, people eating, always people eating. I ate too. My spoon was bent, so that if I wanted to eat, I had to pick up the spoon with my right hand. If I picked it up with my left hand, the spoon bent away from my mouth. I wanted to pick up the spoon with my left hand. 2 people, one larger with curly hair, a big nose, a big mouth, much eyebrow. The larger person always seeming to be angry, often screaming. The smaller person quiet, round of face, paler, with large eyes. I was afraid of both of them. Sometimes there was a third, a fat one, who wore dresses with lace at the throat. She wore a large brooch and had many warts on her face, with little hairs growing out of them. Emily, they called her. These people didn't seem happy together. Emily was the grandmother, my father's mother. My father's name was Henry. My mother's name was Catherine. I never spoke to them by name. I was Henry Jr. These people spoke German most of the time, and in the beginning, I did too. The first thing I remember my grandmother saying was, "I will bury all of you." She said this the first time just before we began eating a meal, and she used to say it many times after that, just before we began to eat. Everything seemed very important. We ate mashed potatoes and gravy, especially on Sundays. We also ate roast beef, knockwurst, and sauerkraut, green beans, rhubarb, carrots, spinach, string beans, chicken, meatballs, and spaghetti, sometimes mixed with raviola. There were boiled onions, asparagus, and every Sunday there was strawberry shortcake with vanilla ice cream. For breakfast we had French toast and sausages, or there were hot cakes or waffles with bacon and scrambled eggs on the side. And there was always coffee. But what I remember best of all were the mashed potatoes and gravy, and my grandmother Emily saying, "I will bury all of you." She visited us often after we came to America, taking the red trolley in from Pasadena to Los Angeles. We only went to see her occasionally driving out in the Model T Ford. I liked my grandmother's house. It was a small house under an overhanging mass of pepper trees. Emily had all her canaries in different cages. I remember one visit best. That evening she went about covering the cages with white hoods so the birds could sleep. The people sat in chairs and talked. There was a piano, and I sat at the piano and hit the keys and listened to the sounds as the people talked. I liked the sound of the keys best up at one end of the piano, where there was hardly any song at all. The sound the keys made was like chips of ice striking against one another. "Will you stop that?" my father said loudly. "Let the boy play the piano," said my grandmother. My mother smiled. "That boy," said my grandmother, "when I tried to pick him up out of the cradle to kiss him, He reached up and hit me in the nose. They talked some more, and I went on playing the piano. Why don't you get that thing tuned? Asked my father. Pretty somber.
Oh. Now you know what it reminds me of?
What?
There's a passage in Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, in Joyce's book.
Oh, really?
Where he's sitting at a desk writing, and the Jesuit priest is telling him to write, and he writes down his street address, his like 22 whatever, then he writes down the area of Dublin, and the city of Dublin, then he writes down Ireland, then the United Kingdom, and the universe, and he pulls back, and it's the same feeling when you do the mashed potatoes and the woman saying that. Hank, that's really one of the great pieces of writing in American writing. It really is. It's gorgeous.
Didn't realize it.
Oh, it is. It's monumental. It is.
I'm so glad you included
Yeah,
that.
it's beautiful.
Just luck.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, you wrote it.
Oh, okay. Gotta be lucky.
Oh,
Well, it's a great piece.
beautiful.
It is a great
Oh,
piece.
that's so
And because the portrait also began with what he says. He's talking baby talk, and you're under the table looking at the leg.
Yeah, well, it's the first thing I ever remembered in life, under the table.
It is. And that
What
was
do you remember the first thing?
Good question. My father's hand. How big it was.
Oh, wow.
Oh, how old do you think you
Wow.
were?
I was about 2.5, 3. Because he was gone after that. That was the last thing I remember of him. Can I get another beer?
Oh,
of
gosh,
course.
of course, my God.
We have plenty of
Oh,
beer.
that's so
That was beautiful.
No.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you
Hey, that's a gift.
for throwing that in.
You're welcome. That's a gift.
So good. I'm so glad.
Anything else?
Oh, I'd love to have you read some poems. They're my favorites.
Well, let me see, maybe if I'm not too sick of them.
But, I mean, that's always been a knockout to me.
To me, it was just the opening of the novel, you know. I had to set the ground.
Oh, that was, it was,
Well, start off well, then.
yeah, it's a great, it's a great piece of writing.
Somebody said they liked the way it started out post office. It began as a mistake.
I don't know if I can persuade you to read The Rain.
Oh,
We
I
ain't got no
was
money,
hoping you
honey, but we
would.
got rain.
It's not that long.
It
not-
isn't
Can
long.
I
It's
look
so-
at it?
It's like about 6 pages, but
But
it's
it's
6
not-
pages.
but it's
Oh,
one of
okay.
the wonderful poems
Oh,
of all time.
okay.
It really is.
But then we should call it on this one, I think.
You have that wonderful story where you wrote about Hoover's visit to Los Angeles,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then you realized that you were telling lies.
Yeah. That was one of the few times I did a little bit of lying. That was, somebody asked me, when did you first know you were a writer? And that was when this teacher asked us all to write about President Hoover's visit to the Coliseum. So I pretended I'd been there, and I wrote the whole thing, what happened, how he came in the motorcade, and how the people cheered, and the Secret Service agents surrounded him, and the sun came down. Even the birds seemed to know he was there, and they flew around, and I really loaded on the bullshit. So the teacher said, "Oh, class, I want to read you this, submitted by Henry." I said, "What?" She got up and she read it, and all the little girls looked at me, and the guy said, We knew there was something wrong with him. So that was the first inkling that there was a seed in there somewhere.
You made it all up.
I was
You
told
didn't
this
go there.
bullshit story about the president. I had no interest in him at all. And so there was a writer's seed in me early there somewhere. For some reason it was there. Also painting, I had a little, in art class, I said, "Oh, look at Henry's." So I appeared on a French television show.
Apostrophe.
And I got drunk and just said about anything I wanted. And we took a train to Nice to see
Uncle Jimmy.
visit the uncle, and he wouldn't let me in his house.
Because he'd been on
After-
television 2 nights before, and Bernard Pivot is this hero in France. I mean, everybody loved Bernard Pivot, the literary giant, the hero of all the intellectual bullshit and everything. Hank went on. They'd gotten him drunk. I mean, they gave him 2 bottles of wine before he went on. The show was live. They had all these interpreters up in these little rooms. Hank goes on with 4 other people in a panel. One of them was the psychiatrist of who?
Artaud.
And then there was this woman who he kept feeling her legs and her ankles and
Oh, the
yelling
great
at these
socialist.
people.
Yeah.
And then he started Bernard Pivot started saying, shut up to Hank, and putting his hand over Hank's mouth, no way. And so Hank just said, ah, and he rose hell. I mean, and everybody, I looked up and everybody was going crazy in the translation booths, and it went on and on. The next day, he was in every paper, the hero of national French television.
Not just a drunk.
Nothing has happened so wonderful in all the history of television. And so my uncle, who is a very conservative gynecologist from Harley Street, who went to southern France to retire with his little French model wife, said, no way, you can't come here. You will never,
didn't
ever
mind.
enter my house. And
I
we
didn't
went
mind.
there. We couldn't go.
That was all
Couldn't
right with
visit
me.
my
I didn't want to see
My
him.
poor mother was visiting, and she had to come and visit us at the hotel.
But my favorite story, went back to Paris, and we were eating in kind of an
In
outdoor
Nice.
area.
That was in Nice.
And it was in Nice. Oh. And a waiter came out from the next eating place down. He said, "Are you Charles Bukowski?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Will you wait a moment, please?" And he went and he got 6 other waiters, and they all lined up, and then they bowed like that. I said, "Thank you very much," and I just filed away and disappeared. That was a cheap thrill. I mean, that was inventiveness. I like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were so
Class.
proud.
Yeah.
But what's it like in Germany, where where they?
He was
Oh.
like a Beatle. He was like Bob Dylan
Yeah.
to somebody. We go to the cleaners.
Brush you
They'd
on
be
the street.
following him all over.
Sign this, sign this. Bukowski, you're Bukowski. Well, should I have a beer to read this
Oh,
one?
there should be some here.
Oh, this one's full. I say. Just had an eye operation. Well, this is a long.
Put my earphones and get ready over here.
Remember, this one's your fault.
Okay, I'm set. Oh, I like the rain.